Yes.
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay. Everybody's in? Okay. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this, I'm going to determine that, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Looking around, I see via Zoom that we have a quorum. At this time, I'd ask that everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing for a moment of silent prayer and reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, I would like for the vision statement, mission statement, and the WISD goals to be read.
The vision statement: empowering and inspiring all students to achieve their full potential. The mission statement: Wimberley ISD is dedicated to excellence in education that fosters a culture of kindness and respect, creates lifelong learners, and empowers students to make a positive impact in their community. We believe that everything that we do should help ensure the success of all of our students. As educators, we maximize class time in an engaging and challenging way. Our teachers are personally invested in our students. Students in Wimberley are committed to community service, and the community supports students in return. A quality public Wimberley ISD education drives the future of a successful Texas. As a district, we strive to meet the needs of the whole child, academically, emotionally, and socially. Wimberley ISD provides the foundation to create engaged citizens who will become lifelong learners. All our children, parents, faculty, and staff should be treated with kindness and respect. We are committed to excellence in all we do. Wimberley ISD goals: achieve excellence in education, foster a culture of kindness and respect, create lifelong learners, make a positive impact in our community.
Okay, thank you. This time I'd like to move to item number 1 on our agenda, which is our citizens' comments. I understand we have one citizen's comment that has been registered. Is that call available?
No, we no longer have that citizen comment. She wants to meet with me.
Okay, no citizens' comments. So we're going to move down to item number 2, which is our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we consider for approval all items with the exception of D.
Second that motion.
Dottie, for your records, Tracy has made a motion. Ken has seconded. Do we have any discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. Ken, how do you vote?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Joe? Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Do we have another motion?
I would move
Go ahead.
that we, I would make a motion that we approve item D.
Second.
We have a motion from Tracy and a second from Ken. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to do roll call. Lori?
I will abstain as I was not present at that meeting.
Rob?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Will, I didn't get that. Will?
I don't think he was present at that meeting, Joe. Can't vote for him. I'm just letting you know.
Okay. I think his audio is off.
I think he dropped off totally. I don't see his video.
Yes,
There you
yes. Am I back?
Yes, you're back, Will.
Did you vote yes or did you abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay, Will abstain. Ken
Yes.
and Joe, yes. Okay, motion passes. All right. We're going to move down to item number 3. I see that we have Dan Wegmiller on with us tonight. Thank you, Dan, for joining us.
Absolutely.
And we would like to hear from you regarding this possible action.
Great. Thank you, board. Dan Wegmiller with Specialized Public Finance, the financial advisor to the district. This item, from time to time, you'll have an opportunity to refinance your existing debt. I think we may have a couple page presentation potentially to come up.
Yes, and Alan is fixing to load that right now.
Okay, great. Well, as that's loading,
It should be good. Yeah. It's showing here.
Okay, Dan, we're having a little difficulty loading, so give us just a second, okay?
yes, absolutely.
It's showing that it's loading on one screen, but not this one.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, I see it on my screen. Is everyone good?
Yes.
Great. So from time to time, the district will have an opportunity to refinance its existing debt. And we've started looking at this quite a while back with Dwayne and Moises. And this is very simple. We can jump to the first slide, the first page of the presentation. And this is just to show you why this opportunity exists. We're in such a unique interest rate environment. If you look at the small box in the upper right-hand corner, it'll show you that the 10-year municipal rate and the 10-year U.S. Treasury are near all-time lows over the last, this graph is over the last 10 years. So over the last 10 years, there's been quite a bit of movement, but it's been movement downward. We are still, despite the COVID-19 situation, we are still at all-time lows in interest rates. We're still seeing issues for high-rated tax-exempt debt, such as Wimberley school bonds, selling at the all-time lows since 1959. So this graph is just to show you, number one, we're at all-time lows. Number two, the zigzag part over the last 10 years tells you that we have no idea where we're going. And so this opportunity right now is still in play. And the opportunity takes us to the next slide, which will show you kind of what we're looking at savings-wise. So the 2013 bonds that were issued by the district, they carried interest rates between 3.5% and 5.58% interest. At the time, some of you that were on the board will remember we talked about what great low interest rates we achieved. and you did. But interestingly enough, rates continued to come down. We have an opportunity where the district can issue taxable bonds because we are in advance of the call date. We can sell taxable bonds and pay off these tax-exempt bonds at a lower interest rate on a taxable basis. And so on the left-hand side of the page, you'll see kind of the bottom left box that shows, the top left shows the 23.5 million of outstanding bonds carrying 3.5 to 5.5% interest, callable in 8/15/2022. If you go down to the left-hand side, that smaller box, it shows that today we estimate we could sell new bonds at roughly 2.97%. That is just a real moving target. We've seen a few issues come into the market over the last couple of weeks. We've seen bond ratings affirmed. So the good news is, as part of this, we have to get a bond rating affirmed for the district. This COVID-19 situation has not brought any downward pressure on bond ratings for schools that we've seen, mainly because the ones facing more of the pressure are obviously cities and counties that have sales tax, hotel, motel tax. So the good news is, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen bond ratings affirmed, which means we can go out to the market. That bottom left box shows that at 2.97%, if we were able to get what we estimate today's rate to be, that would result in savings of roughly $9 million in debt service over the remaining life of these bonds. So that's from 2020 through 2043. That represents a present value savings of $6.2 million, and it's a present value percentage of 26.5%. Usually we're looking at 3 to 5% present value savings as a percentage to really start looking at these things. With, again, the movement in rates over the last couple months, this presents itself at well beyond what are normal thresholds. And the benefit on the right-hand side of the page, you can see starting in 2025, it's somewhere north of $470,000 a year in debt service savings. So it's an opportunity to move forward if the market holds and cooperates. If the market were to move away from us, we just put it back on the shelf, as we've done before with refunding opportunities for the district. The only cost you incur is applying for the permanent school fund guarantee and the bond rating costs. But we'll hold off on that until we get a little closer with document preparation. But all that said, this is a significant amount of savings and just, again, a unique situation with taxable versus tax exempt. The reason we have to sell taxable is the new tax law passed a couple sessions ago of Congress, IRS requirements. You cannot advance refund these before the call date. So since these are not callable till 2022, we can't refund these as tax exempt, but we can as taxable. So it's, again, we've done it in my almost 30 years of doing this. I've seen about 2, maybe 3 opportunities over that period of time where we hit interest rates in this fashion where they've just dropped so low that some of these refundings make sense. So I'll just stop there and be glad to answer any questions, but then I can touch on the the order.
Dan, the only question I would have is there a downside? Because I'm not seeing one.
Now, the only downside is, in theory, if you waited till the call date of 8/15/2022 and rates stayed the same, you would pick up maybe some of the negative arbitrage that sits in the refunding escrow there. The reality, though, with rates as low as they are, This is kind of a bird in the hand. The present value percentage is so strong. It blows away the normal 3 to 5 to 9% present value percentage. And it positions the savings in some good years moving forward. So with that, there's a future opportunity, but I think the last couple months, we truly have seen that the ability to predict where we're going to be is not something we should try to bank on, but we can bank on what opportunity may exist today.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
And Dan, I don't know if you could answer this, or maybe Dwayne, but what are the options available to the school board if we were to move forward with these refinancing options, and we were to actually receive these savings? What options does the school board have, and how to apply those savings to the budget and to the tax rate of the school district?
Sure. So
we worked for years doing this in the county, but school finance is much different, as you know. So I just wanted to know what the kind of the menu of options were.
Absolutely. So the savings, the way we've structured it, and there's at times we can front load some of the savings to try to target specific years. More over with school districts, we tend to go more level on the debt service, and that will help. It really does help with future capacity, any future needs you may have to take it more level. To the extent that we target a given year, it's fairly similar at the county level from the standpoint the district, as in other municipalities, can levy a tax to pay current debt service and to pay off or defease future debt service as well. So this savings, we've structured it fairly level. At times, if we know there's a bond program coming in X year, we can try to load as much savings into those years to help offset the impact. But in general, this one is kind of set up as level as possible, and it will tend to help the long-term capacity.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate the answer.
You bet.
Good seeing you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion that we accept the tax refunding bonds as presented by Dan Wegmiller.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ken. Who seconded?
Will did.
Rob did.
Okay, we can only take 1 second, but you guys can both vote for it. How's that? All right, Will seconded. Ken made the motion. Any further discussion? Sounds like a great opportunity for our district. Thank you, Dan, for bringing it to our attention.
Absolutely.
All in favor, raise your right hand, or I'm gonna go to roll call. Ken?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
And Rob?
Yes.
Joe? Yes. All right, passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
All right, we're gonna move on down to item number 4 on our agenda, which is our bond update. And understand, and I see him, Bob Farmer's with us this evening. Thank you, Bob, for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. I will go through the current projects and some of the summer projects that are coming up. I'll start with Danforth. The report that I issued a couple weeks ago showed this is about 80% complete. It's probably about 85% complete right now. Contractor is underway with installing ceiling grid, painting. They're doing some block work inside the athletic areas. We did have an issue at Danforth where we found numerous leaks below floors with existing piping. So we spent about 2 weeks cutting up floors, tracing down leaks in order to pass the plumbing pressure test, which has been completed. So things are moving forward. The contractor's current schedule shows substantial completion on July 15th. We don't see that as an issue to complete. The only effect that we've found so far as the virus and any kind of effects from deliveries is still ceramic tile. We have not gotten confirmation that our tile is going to be delivered on time, but we have started the process of finding alternative tiles if we need to. The contractor does think that we were in line early enough that we will get that tile, but communication's been a little bit slow. On the primary school, things are progressing pretty well. Bartlett shifted their work hours to 4 10-hour days. They felt like that lowered the odds of anyone's exposure to the virus. They're taking very extreme measures to prevent anything like that happening with hand wash stations. Everybody's wearing dust masks, respirators if necessary, and trying to maintain the required separation. I've noticed a little bit of effect on productivity, but the latest schedule update shows us being complete by the end of July. Right now, I don't see any major issues. We're installing flooring, we're installing ceiling tiles and light fixtures. The project's really progressing nicely. As far as the on-site sewer facility goes, the tank excavation is underway. He's about halfway done with that. This week, we should start rough grading of the drip bed, and we'll keep moving forward with that. The water storage tanks, one of them is substantially complete. The other one's about 80% complete. We finally resolved all our issues with City of Wood Creek and Aqua. We've done a survey. We're ready to go with boring, and that should start hopefully before the end of next week to get our permanent water supply to the building. The only thing that we've seen that could possibly affect us are delivery of furniture and playground equipment. We've heard in a couple of cases that furniture could be an issue. I guess the fortunate thing for us is the fact that we actually have a building, a school that we could move old furniture in place if necessary. We have room for furniture to be installed in the building. As I said, flooring was being installed, and so that's not going to be an issue. We have not heard a negative report on furniture. Like I said, I've just heard in a couple instances where some pieces of furniture may arrive late. There's some East Coast plants that are currently closed, and we're trying to monitor that. Kind of the same situation with gym equipment. Right now, nothing in negative. We're in good shape. There's no reason why we can't open this building in time. If we have to move old furniture, old equipment in place and then replace it with new, we will. So I don't think there's really any big concerns right now. We're just kind of pushing late July as a completion date. As far as other projects goes, we've made a little bit of progress on the athletic storage building. We're just trying to find a good location for that building. The original plan just didn't work out from the site and drainage issues. So hopefully we can come up with a new spot and get that project moving. The stadium walkway improvements will be conducted over the summer. We have preliminary drawings. The high school roof is complete. We have had multiple meetings on the programming for the repurpose of Scudder. We've had some initial plans, a follow-up by the architects. We feel like we're in pretty good shape to do some of that work this summer. I guess upcoming activities over the next couple of weeks, Moises and I will be updating the cost report. I have no concerns there right now, but we will dive into that deeply and produce an updated cost report before your next board meeting. I think we're in really good shape. We're right on the money, and we should be fine. We will be bringing the playground equipment to the board in May. We're in the final process of selecting that equipment. I'd be happy to answer any questions about these projects.
Dwayne, I think I know the answer, but if for some reason something were to occur and we did not meet our construction deadline and our move-in date, what is our contingency going into the fall of next year? Just status quo?
Are you talking about the furniture being moved? I mean, classrooms being set up? Is that your question?
Well, we're on schedule to be complete by late July, right, Bob? Yeah. And so say something happened and we weren't going to be able to be complete to October the 1st. I was just curious, what's our contingency plan?
Well, our contingency plan would be to stay in Scudder. And so, you know, we would know that in plenty of time to go to a plan B. But you know, we've been really hitting the schedule hard. And, you know, every single time Bob walks into my office, and especially whenever he talks to Dara, you know, that's the number one question that we're asking is, hey, is everything still on track for opening up? And so things seem to be moving fairly quickly. I don't know of any major items. I think Bob pretty well outlined kind of where we're at for completion. But yeah, the only plan B that exists is that we would stay in Scudder for a while.
That's great. Thank you, Dwayne.
Sure.
Hey, Bob, it's Tracy. You didn't mention anything in it. Is there any indicators as to kitchen equipment issues?
No, actually, we have most of the kitchen equipment available and on site. One of the things we ask contractors to do, get everything you can get. So they've brought everything, drywall, kitchen equipment. We're really in good shape on the kitchen.
Okay, thanks.
Are we going to discuss the facility assessment separately, I assume, or is that just there for our review?
No, Bob's definitely going to present it to you. It's
okay.
His
I just didn't want to skip.
Yeah,
sure. And be done.
It's the next agenda item.
Okay.
We can probably move to that now then.
Okay.
What this is, I gave you an outline of what could potentially take place as far as the facility assessment goes. These are just items that have kind of bubbled to the surface in conversations with directors and staff, Eddie and the maintenance group. So none of this is cast in stone. It's really just kind of here's an idea of the types of things that we might be looking at. We know that probably the top priorities would be all the deferred maintenance items. Nothing really significant there, just replacements of water heaters, flooring, doors, painting, all the kind of stuff that we would want to pick up, and possibly addition of classrooms to the high school. Those would probably be the top priorities. The other items, have, like I said, they've just come up in conversation, and I use that as just kind of a guideline for showing you how this assessment would work. And I think the key thing that I want to talk about here, always the biggest unknown on a construction project is the site work. The building costs itself are fairly well known, but site work could vary from $8 a square foot to $28 a square foot. So what we're trying to say here is that we would need some preliminary design work done or develop a concept of what any of these projects might look like, followed up by a civil report so that we could put some accurate numbers to it. And I've also attached kind of a rough schedule what that would possibly look like over a period of 3 months or so.
He's still got to edit
to do the update. So it's nothing more than that. I just really wanted to bring you up to date with some of the conversations we've had. And like I said, the priorities have seemed to be classrooms at the high school, deferred maintenance items, and then possibly performing arts. So Nothing more than that. We've been given no directive on these are the items you need to look at. I just wanted to give you an idea that we're out there. I know right now it's probably not the best time to make a decision to go forward, but we are ready. I've had plenty of conversations with Doucette on civil and O'Connor, Robertson, and we think we could turn this around pretty quickly.
And so there is a slide there for proposed cost to begin a secondary study, isn't there? Or
I didn't put any
oh, you
cost in
didn't?
there right
Okay.
now.
All right.
I can tell you that the cost is probably in the range of $35,000 to $40,000 based on what we know today. That could vary up or down a little bit depending on kind of the scope. This slide here is just a schedule and potential personnel hours for estimating program management. And like I think I told you all before, our costs would be absorbed in our current contracts. There would be no cost for AGCM's involvement, but we would need to pay the architects and civil to do some preliminary design. Hopefully that
So
makes sense.
this is Gina Fulkerson. But Joe, I don't know if you want to go around the board. That might be better. Or should I just go ahead, Joe? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, go ahead, Gina.
Okay. So my last meeting, so I won't be around for the rest of this. I do want to say, and you've already alluded to this, that the state as a whole and this community doesn't know for sure what's coming around the corner as far as cost or potential cuts. And to even bring up some of these things, especially things we've never discussed as a community, that would be both expensive to build and particularly expensive to maintain, which would come out of our M&O funds. I just think that we shouldn't even be putting these on any sort of a line item. That's me personally. And then the other thing is that I'm not sure how to look at these hours that are at the top, but if I'm estimating it, it looked like it'd be a lot higher than 40,000. And my thought when we went into this is that basically it was going to cost us very little, if anything. Of course, I was thinking about your time, but I also want to say from the standpoint of a legality, we can't do work. And as I understand it, you're not on a flat fee. You're billing per hour with the maximum, if I recall the contract. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So whatever time you put into this project that's not associated with bonds that we're currently working on, I don't think can be a part of the next assessment or strategic plan. I think that would not be, wouldn't be necessarily correct. I haven't looked at it, haven't asked an attorney, but it's not a part of this bond project. And so I don't think we should fund it directly or indirectly out of this bond project if it has to do with future planning and other projects. And so I'm concerned both about the total amount, which I'm looking at could be way over 40, 50,000 when we just did one 2.5, 3 years ago. And my thought when I first brought it up was, let's bring that one out. Let's check off everything we've already accomplished and let's make sure that we update equipment that might be going out, new equipment that's purchased, how much is of a lifetime on that. And of course, that's going to cost something. But anyway, I have a lot of concerns. I don't think you're asking for a vote tonight on anything, but I just want to put those two things out there for future consideration.
Well, I think your points are valid as far as being able to spend current bond money towards something else. I think what we would offer is to deduct some amount from our current bond funds, our current contract, what we would anticipate being left over to apply to this would probably be the correct legal way to go, as far as I know. And like I said, these are just kind of order of magnitude estimates on cost.
Right. All right. Well, I do appreciate everything that you've done so far, and you'd be in a good position to give us an update. I just want to be careful with it, especially given the current times.
Thank
And
you,
that's it,
and
Joe.
we're going to miss you.
Well, me too. When I have time to think about it.
Anybody else like to make a comment?
So what are we looking at in terms of what are we doing? Are we taking any action on this? I mean, I do share some of Gina's concerns. I have some questions about, the new facility that's on this called out that we've never discussed or even heard of before. And it wasn't on our previous on the facilities plan. And then also the lack of sort of any other Scudder repurposing costs and construction and design and things. I don't see that here anywhere also. So I'm just raising those two issues and then wondering what are we doing now today, or is this something that we're going to be discussing at a future meeting for approval?
So when we started looking at, first of all, all of Scudder repurpose is in this bond.
It's been bond, yeah.
It's in this particular bond package. And so we've already set through an initial meeting with what those costs are. And they're definitely within the budget of the bond. And so when the team sat down and looked at the sledge report, we pretty well accomplished most of the things in there, but we had never really discussed the high school classroom addition in that facility planning at that time. And now that is a need to expand the high school. We've got, oh my gosh, I don't want to give you a number, but it's, we've got quite a few teacher, and most of them are coaches that don't have a classroom. They're sharing classrooms with teachers that during their conference. And so that and the deferred maintenance are really the two big items on here. We've discussed performing arts. We've discussed YMCA. This practice facility was mentioned. And so I was just trying to give Bob an idea of, because he was telling me that, like he told you, site work, all of this, to kind of get enough information in the next update, the facility update, that we would at least need to know kind of some of the projects that we would be looking at for time, for how much, the civil would cost, and then just estimates from the architect. Am I leaving anything out? And so, this is just a first snapshot of, things that would possibly, be considered by a bond committee. And so that's why we kind of broke it out. This is where we started with Sledge. Sledge sat down with us and the admin team and teachers and everything else before we put together the last bond, and just, tried to find, areas of need for that bond. And then that's where Sledge started their report. I know that Eddie has done a complete, I guess you would call it, audit of everything that we've got that's new. And you see a few things listed here. These are the things that are kind of left that we have not done with the deferred maintenance items. And I don't remember what we've discussed, like you said, water heaters. It was nothing really major. The majority of our HVAC is taken care of. We've always had roof issues. They've now been all addressed. And so now we're looking at a lot of, just some of the mechanical things.
Hey, Dwayne.
Yes.
I think what might be helpful, just to kind of see a balance between what Gina has voiced and what we see here, is how about an accounting for what we have accomplished with Sledge a few years back. That report was done. And then a more specific report on this deferred maintenance. as one of 7 on the board of directors, board of trustees, it seems like deferred maintenance would top my list here. Second for me would be looking at the high school classroom. The other things pushed down. So I think we just need some incremental steps before we get to Performing Arts Center and these other things that are listed. What have we accomplished with the previous sledge? What is Eddie and others saying about deferred maintenance? Because it's very important. You got to take care of your buildings, as you well know, or that will cost more money. And then what does it look like to add more classrooms, and what's the real need there? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so we were just trying to give a snapshot of what this process looks like, and then hopefully kind of an estimated cost of what an additional update would be. I have not spoke with Sledge because I felt like that, you know, between Bob's firm and our architects, that we could come out quite a bit cheaper. And so you take just those 2 items there, I mean, you're talking much less time. And so, but yeah, we can sure do that. I know that Rick and Bob have had the Sledge report now for about a month and a half, and we've kind of gone over that a little bit as to what we've accomplished. And then some of the things that were on the Sledge report, and I can't point them out specifically. I think the deferred maintenance, like you said, is probably something that was not on that report at all. And then at the time, we weren't really considering high school classroom. Can you remember anything else from that report? Yeah.
I would just add to what Rob articulated, that to Gina's point, just getting some clarity from our bond counsel, you know, depending on how the covenants of the bond was written, on how much flexibility we have with any excess funds and what they can be used for, on top of kind of what Rob detailed, and some of the good points Gina brought up, I think would serve as well too, Dwayne.
Yeah. And I've already had those conversations and continuing to have those conversations with Richard Donahue.
Great.
Just for clarity.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so because the price point is less than $40,000, you know, presumably, then that's within your authority, Dwayne, correct?
Yes, but I would sure want everybody to be on board before we move forward with a facility plan. I think that, yeah, I just think it's important that the last time we knew pretty specific things that we could sit down and talk to Sledge about, we had them prioritized. This is just our first stab to prioritize. And so we've already put deferred maintenance possibly at the top of that list, then maybe high school. And then what about a performing arts? You know, in May, we're going to be bringing up YMCA. So there's other things out there. What can you afford to do now, later, whatever? But to keep the plan to where it is following the needs across the district, keeping it updated as much as possible.
I think it's very important that we talk about the Sledge report and what was on it and what's done. I mean, there were a lot of handicap issues on that report. You know, I'd just like to make sure all those got done before we started talking about anything else. So,
okay.
Mr. York, how do you feel that, or not feel, but based on other times where we've had economic difficulties here in our valley, is that going to potentially affect our enrollment?
Oh, yes, it definitely could. And so, like I said, this was just kind of a first stab of an update. And so you guys are saying that what you would prefer to see is us to stay with Sledge right now, see where this is going to take us, and then we'll revisit this later. I just didn't want you to think that this was on the back burner. I mean, I've been talking to OCR and Bob for quite some time about the next possibility. And then COVID hit, and bam, we're like, we're in uncharted waters right now. We could see a decrease in enrollment. We could see a decrease in revenue. There's all kinds of possibilities out there. And so we're being very careful, especially on the M&O side, of how that's, all of this is going to affect us. Will brought up a good point, I think, about what, if any, funds are left from this bond. When you start looking at maintenance, that is in our language. That is in our bond language. So we could possibly use excess funds to assist with some of those. We could also use excess funds, for other things for the buildings that would be in their budget. That would be, a bond related expense.
And Mr. York, to clarify, there are different types of maintenance. So if we're talking about replacing an air conditioning unit, then depending upon the language of the bond, that'd be okay. But we can't do ordinary repairs and things like that.
No.
Ever under a bond, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we do that. And then the other thing would be to look hard at the numbers from the high school. I can't recall exactly, but I think when Kelly graduated too many years ago, probably 13, 14 years ago, the enrollment seemed like it was in the 700s then, like close to 730, 740. And so our numbers at the high school don't seem to have gone up that much. And since then, I know we've added quite a bit of square footage. So I would just say, especially in an economy that may be difficult, especially in the next year or so, that if that's a need that, just everyone really can explain that and, make sure that there's not a way to work around it. But I want our teachers to have their classrooms. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just
so
give it a hard look. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I will definitely give you maybe our last 5 years of enrollment, or maybe even the last 10, because when your daughter graduated, we were in the low 6s. We have never been at the high 7s for quite some time. I mean, over the last.
I will have to admit that my memory's definitely.
No, but I will
years
definitely
ago.
get all that information. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and can I also add to that we need to keep in mind what this board has requested of the high school, and that is to add sections, to add classes, to add career and technology. And you can't do that if you don't have the classrooms to make that happen.
Yeah, I know. But since that time, we've also added quite a few buildings to our CTE. So all I'm saying is wait and see where we are, and, be aware that more buildings, it's more maintenance costs, it's more air conditioning, it's more everything. And I'm just worried about the next couple of years because of what's, at our doorstep right now. So.
No, I totally understand.
And Dwayne, this is Lori. You said something like you were hearing that we wanted you to quote stay with Sledge. I don't think that's what I'm saying, and maybe others. I think what Ken said, what I heard Ken say earlier is right on, which is that we would like to see, basically, information presented to us about what was in the Sledge report, what have we done, and what's left to do, and use that as a starting point, and then
I could do that. I mean, we've already got that information.
That's the first line item on the schedule, is to do that.
Yeah.
So the first line item on the schedule of this particular is to review and update the Sledge report. And so we've got that. We just don't have a slide for it. So I will make sure that in the May meeting, all of that, because we've already gone through that report. So what we've got is what you want. I probably should have put that as part of this report. We were just trying to give you a snapshot look of what the future would look like if we went out and did an update of the Sledge. But we will definitely pull out the Sledge report. We'll show you what's been completed. Like I said, we've pretty much already done that work. We just need a report on it.
Well, thank you both. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that I appreciate the presentation, also just to show us what the process looks like, Bob, for your firm to be involved and how you approach it in kind of a systematic way with the timetable and everything. I do think that this is a thoughtful approach. I do agree that we do need to see what we've already accomplished. Based on the prior report, maybe in a little bit more detail. And I know you guys have that information pretty handy, so that maybe it'd be something we can come back with next month. And then from there, make a decision as to, what direction we want to go in terms of, more formal services.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. Well, let's, by the way, Bob, thank you for hanging in there with us. I know these are challenging times. We appreciate what you're doing to keep our projects moving. And thank you for being with us tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you,
Thank
Bob.
you, Bob. Probably won't see you too much in the future, so except around town. Thank you for all you've done.
Appreciate it. Same to you.
All right. So we're going to move on down then to item number 6 on our agenda, which is our report section. I didn't see a health and safety report in the package. Did I miss that? All right, we'll skip through that. And item number 6B is our financial report. Moises Santiago, I see he's with us tonight. Welcome, Moises.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon. Well, we are almost 2/3 of the fiscal year here, and March we actually had a pretty good month. The majority of the impact of COVID related came in near the end of the month. And as far as revenue is concerned, we pretty much had a similar type as the previous year around this time. So in cash investments, we currently have about 43.4 million, which general fund makes about 46% at 19.8 million. Our estimated general fund did decrease by 5.5%, about $1 million. That's equivalent to about $1 million. The majority of the impact was in food service, of course, the meal serve, and in transportation, in the transporting of students. In the general fund, on page 1, we collected 24.4 million, which is about 94.35% of the budgeted revenue. We have spent about 54.9. The child nutrition program collected our year-to-date 569,000, which is 70%, and we've spent 61% of that. The meal served, of course, decreased by 36% for breakfast and 41% in total lunches. And we had less serving days than the previous year. I did put some notes on this report, and as we get new information, I will be updating you all. USDA did approve several waivers here so that we can provide meals outside of regular school hours. So we are seeking to request for reimbursements for all this type of meals that we are donating and sending home also to students over the weekends and things like that. We are making our best effort to track all of these expenses because we are going to get audited. So we are going to request for FEMA reimbursement for all of this. So we're trying to do as best as we can to document everything that we're doing. As far as the debt service, we have already paid part of our interest payment for the month of February. So we have collected in revenue almost 99% of the budgeted revenue. We have spent 33% of the total expenditures. In the 2018 Capital Projects Fund, we have spent 16.8 million. We have earned in interest as of March 31st, 533,000 in interest revenue. On the next page, I made a notation there on special revenue. Any funding that we get or that we apply for or that the state allocates to our district will be reported on this section related to the CARES Act. So I will be reporting that on this section right there. As far as proprietary funds, enterprise funds, those continue more or less like the previous months. So we have net profits in those programs, 15,000, 46,000, 128,000 for the Scudder After School program, Jacob's Well, the Jacob's Well After School program, and the tuition base, respectively. As far as the tax collections are concerned, we actually collected 1% higher than the previous year around this time. So tax collections don't seem to have been affected by these related circumstances. We might experience something different in the month of the coming months, April, June, July. So that information, I will keep you all posted and updated as we get that info. But we have collected 598. We collected 598,000 in the month of March, which is about 101.86 of the levy. Total, we have collected 95.86 of the total levy. Keep in mind that we did budget it at 96% collection, so we're almost there. And this is still the month of March. Let's see, about 90s, we have collected collected 97.9% of the current tax collection budget. As far as the transportation, we did decrease our student ridership by 50%. At this time, TA has not told us or has issued any information related to whether they're going to hold the districts harmless for the loss of miles related to this. But as soon as we do, we'll go ahead and keep you all informed on this, okay? I did make an annotation there on the last part of the report that any funding that we get through FEMA will be separate from funding that we receive through the CARES Act. So that's aside from the projected or proposed revenue for this current fiscal year. Any questions?
Moises, this is Lori. I do have a question about, hi there, about the potential losses, obviously in the future to our after school programs. Is there any FEMA coverage for that type of thing? Or is that just something that, I mean, we obviously have to, in our pre-K that's tuition based, I mean, we're gonna keep paying those teachers. So is that just an area where we should anticipate losses in the coming month?
Well, for this year, and based on the information that we have received, TA has adjusted how they're going to calculate the funding per ADA. So the way they have structured their formulas for this current fiscal year so that funding is not affected is that they're gonna take their the first 6 weeks, and then the remainder 6 weeks of the year, they're gonna get a historical figure from the previous year. So as you know, our previous years, our ADA has increased. So I don't see any potential loss in the funding for this current year. So, but for the coming year, that's where the uncertainty is because at this point, we don't know how the funding is going to be affected for where do we even start, at what point do we even start projecting for next year. But for this year, I feel pretty comfortable that we are going to get funding, and I don't think we're going to incur any loss for as far as the state funding is concerned.
For the after school programs?
The after school programs will continue as funded. It still remains as is, okay? And what I wanted to reiterate here is that based on previous year, our ADA has not decreased, so we should not experience a decrease in funding because of our historical ADA figures.
So, Lori, I understand your question, and yes, it will have an effect with the tuition-based pre-K. We will essentially have 2 months that parents will not be paying, and yet we are delivering instruction. I do want everybody to know that. But it's not face-to-face, that type of instruction. So we have enough money in fund balance. Dara and I looked at that. We have enough in fund balance to absorb those 2 months. And then in the after-school care, those people are on hourly, their hourly wage. And so that should be a wash. And so we're just very thankful that we have a good fund balance in that tuition-based pre-K so that we could absorb this.
So
Yeah.
I think the second part of Lori's question is do we have any recourse over that, I guess you'd say profit that we would make over and above paying teachers for that proprietary funding?
Yes, yes, we do.
Yes, we do. And in fact, we already look at and estimated in the event we were to lose that for the 2 months. So we still have a cushion in there. And I think we should be okay for that part.
Joe,
Sure.
would this be the appropriate place for Dwayne to kind of give us a report from a financial perspective on the latest from the state and when we anticipate more development there or somewhere else in our agenda?
To the extent Dwayne has information he can share on that, I think now would be a good time.
Sure. And so we've been following very close everything that's coming from the comptroller's office. I've been relying on Sonny Monroe from TEA, not TEA, I'm sorry, Region 13. We will be on another phone call, another Zoom meeting with TEA tomorrow at 3. And the two things that we really are looking for from TEA is, do they have any information about what we're looking at next year? Because the comptroller's office came out with a report that I'm pretty sure that I sent you guys. That was the last good information that we had from the comptroller. So that information, as you looked at it, you can tell that the state definitely is, has got some economic issues going into the next session. He talked a little bit about the rainy day fund. One thing that is really frustrating to all of us is 9 times out of 10, this time of year, you have a pretty good idea of what your total revenue is going to look like. What's hurting us is the silence, the crickets in the background. No one's willing to give us any kind of projection, maybe because they don't know right now. We're not really sure, but I've talked to superintendents that they have to have a budget ready by the end of June. And, now that we've gone to current values too, that is going to create another scenario because we're creating a budget for July to be approved in August. And then we don't even know if our revenue that we used is going to match the current values that the comptroller announces to us in February of the following year. So the combination of all of that, it's very difficult to pinpoint what we've got. Now, Moises, we did receive, those numbers were from the CAD. What did we receive from the CAD the other day?
From the CAD, we have already received our preliminary values. I'm still waiting one from the Kumal, but those figures are still, I wouldn't rely too much on those figures right now, because what TA is gonna do is during the month of, I believe it's July, they're gonna issue a survey to all school districts to report whatever preliminary values we receive so that they can calculate the first tier of our tax rate. This is something that they decided on the new legislation. So on that part, I wouldn't rely too much on that current preliminary value.
So that's pretty much where we're at, Will. And believe me, we're waiting. We're definitely anxiously awaiting. I think that the true number has got to be something established by the comptroller's office, and and then how the comptroller and the CAD is going to work that out to report that number to us is pretty much up in the air.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was good, thorough response. Appreciate it.
Okay. Moises, anything else you'd like to share with us today?
No, I mean, the only thing is that as we get new information, we'll keep you all posted. Okay.
We do have budgets in administrators and directors' hands right now. I've been meeting with them on a very regular basis about their budget, and keeping in mind that there could potentially be less money next year. And so keeping personnel to a bare minimum right now, not adding any, because we all know that personnel is definitely our biggest expense. And so we're just being very careful. I am having them, though, create a budget as if we were funded at the level we were this year, and then to highlight those areas that are different from next year, especially with personnel. And then we'll review that once we have numbers in. Do you want me to go and start with my report, Joe?
Yeah, I'm having some power issues over here.
Okay.
Yep, this whole side of town, I think, just lost power.
Yeah, my computer still works, which is good. But yeah, all my electricity just went off over here at my office. Everybody still online?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We hear Tracy. Can you hear us, Tracy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. I
think we've got everybody.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they came back on.
I lost my agenda that I was following. I think the next item from memory
It's superintendent's report.
Yeah, superintendent's report. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Sure. And so we have put out information to the public about, what this closure meant. Once Governor Abbott made his announcement of school closure, I think Facebook blew up a little while, and my email did, as well as my phone, as to, so we're going to come check in our iPads and Chromebooks tomorrow, and all of our textbooks tomorrow. In other words, they took it as school was over. And so we got out ahead of that. We had our second instructional delivery today. It went very well. I wish we would have had the news out at Scudder. I don't know if any of you were in that line, but it was just awesome. We had teachers in vehicles lining Green Acres with signs on their vehicles. We miss you guys. Kids were responding with signs, but this is a kind of environment that has been around our campuses as our kids come and pick up instructional material as well as deliver it back to us. So I know that many parents have expressed that they have a new, I guess, view of what teaching is all about, and that they're very anxious to allow us to continue to do our job next year. And but I think that this is it's really affected our teaching staff too, because our teachers, the majority of our teachers were very upset with the fact that they couldn't have closure with their kids. And I think that speaks very highly of our staff. I really do. So, so we're continuing to deliver all of the instructional material they need through the last scheduled day. And then that last week, we are going to schedule out grade level pickup of the last instructional material, as well as the student receiving from their lockers, stuff that they left in their lockers. In other words, returning their stuff back to them. So that's going to be pretty much that last week. We're going to coordinate that per campus and make sure that we're following, all the guidelines of everything in a safe manner. And then the last thing is tomorrow's TEA conference is very, very important. We hope that they start talking about a little bit about, what to expect as far as revenue. But then the other thing that Marath is supposed to be setting out are guidelines for graduation. And so I've had several meetings with parents, students, and have a good idea that they are definitely opposed the virtual. But I don't know if you guys saw the graduation ceremony at the Air Force Academy. I'm not sure how many graduates were there, but on the football field, how they had set the chairs, spaced the chairs, they covered the entire football field. Not really sure how many graduates were there. And so, we're looking into that. How do you space people in the stands? We'd need to utilize both the home and the visitor stands. And what that would look like, you'd be limiting only 2 people per graduate, but then we would live stream the graduation on YouTube for the other family members to view during the graduation ceremony. We would be streaming that live. And so anyway, we're looking forward to seeing what some of these guidelines are set out by TEA. And that's all I've got, Joe.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne. I think the next item on the agenda,
Can I answer a quick question about just something? You said you were going to have the students within 1 week come and get the things out of their lockers. Is that going to be enough time for them to come in? I mean, shouldn't that be spread out a little more so that they don't have to?
Yeah, so we're going to start on that Monday, and I don't have that date. Well,
okay, you're still looking at that.
Yes,
okay.
And so I met with the admin team this week. No, not this week. Today's Monday. Last week, it's all run together. Thursday or Friday. And we started looking at the breakdown of what the schedule would look like. And so we want to give ample time. So maybe we need to start the Friday before the last week. What we're doing right now at both the junior high and the high school is that our staff is already going through all the lockers and picking up textbooks and checking them in per student, as well as library books and checking them in per student. And then we're assuming that the remainder of what's in the locker is their personal belongings, and we'll be placing them into a plastic bag and being ready for distribution. That sounds like an easy process, but having gone through it as high school principal, it's really not. And then you've got the athletic lockers that Doug is needing to go through. And we still have quite a bit of athletic equipment still checked out to kids. So we've got to have a method to safely pick up that equipment also. So we're looking at all of these things. And yeah, Lori, you could be right. We might need more time than just 1 week.
Hey, Dwayne, there's 967 cadets that graduated this past weekend.
Okay.
They were apart. That's a little factoid for you. But really what I wanted to get to was thank you so much for your leadership through all this with COVID-19. I think it's been exceptional. And on top of that, exceptional leadership by our teachers and our principals and faculty. Like you, very, very proud of them. I have a kindergartner granddaughter in there. I never thought she'd be experiencing, Zoom meetings with her teacher this year at age 5. But she loves those get-togethers. So it just speaks to the community that we have here at WISD and Wimberley Valley. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to echo what Rob said. I don't have a great perspective on middle school and high school, but I do at the elementary school level with 3 kids at 3 different places. And considering what our community is going through, our country, I think y'all have done the best that you can with a bad situation. And you know, hats off to our administration, to our teachers who just, you know, have done an outstanding job, and just very pleased with where we're at as a district in handling this unfortunate event.
Well, I will definitely let them know that. I definitely will.
Yeah, I think probably everybody on the board feels that way, and we just really appreciate the extra effort and the way our teams have come together and have really, it's been an opportunity to shine that nobody anticipated, but really does speak very highly for our district and our people. Okay, I'm gonna move on over to the President's Report. Just a couple things on there. The first thing I'll start with is how, and I say this reluctantly, and I never thought we'd have to do this virtually, but Gina has submitted her letter of resignation. It's been an absolute pleasure serving with Gina these many years on the board. She's been our former president. She's been a leader in many ways. She's always put the kids first, and the teachers and the community behind that. And I want to wish her all the best as she takes on another challenge in serving our community as the mayor of Wimberley in its city. And also, I want to let everybody know that we're going to invite Gina back if she'll have us in a couple of months to do this in person, so we can all, you know, hug her neck and thank her in person and eat cake like we normally do, and all those things to honor her service in kind of a, you know, more traditional way. But given some of the timelines that are involved, you know, she was in a position where she wanted to submit her resignation at this meeting so she could go on to start serving the city of Wimberley.
Well, thank you, Joe, and kind of glad I'm not there in person. It's hard, and anyway, thank y'all all very much. Thank you, Mr. York and Ken. You started before me, and you've always been a good mentor, and I thank you. And Liz Tuttle, you're out there somewhere. You were a great influence on me as well. She was one of the first board presidents that I served under, and all the administration and teachers, and the gift to our family to be able to raise our kids in this community and to be a part of it has been very special to me. Thank you all very much.
Gina, we're
and
gonna
Tom volunteered to make ribs at our summer.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
All right.
Hold his
Right,
feet to the fire on that.
That's the other bright spot. The only bright spot I will see out of this is I still get to work with you as the mayor of Wimberley. So it's not like you're
That's
going
right.
away. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to those ribs also.
Good. Well, I'm not
Gina,
going anywhere.
We're
So
gonna
I
miss
will-
you so much, but I know the city will be so much the better for you stepping in to lead it. And you're an amazing person, and thank you for everything you've done for our schools.
Thank you, Gina, for your service. Wish you the best as you lead this Wimberley Valley. I think you'll be great.
And I just want to say to everybody else, it's been very good to get to know you. I've learned so much, and hope to model some of the things I'm learned from each and every one of you. And Tracy, thank you for that encouragement many years ago. And I know I'm not naming everybody. There have been too many over the years, but I really do respect and look to the good in each and every one of you for our district's welfare in the future. I know it's in good hands. So thank you all for serving and for making me feel so comfortable to be able to leave and not have a worry about it. Thank y'all.
Gina, you're a true public servant, and you'll do a great job as mayor, I know, and appreciate your mentorship the short time we've been together on the board, and look forward to seeing you in your new capacity.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Well, Gina, I don't know that either one of us thought this is where we would be when all this journey started back in 2008, but I'm so glad that we are. And I definitely am so excited to see what you'll be able to do with the city.
Oh, thank you very much. Always, every one of you. And a special thank you to Dee and Dottie too, who have throughout all the years made things really workable, and Tracy and Sharon Eulander, and I can't name everybody. The teachers have been amazing. And I just am excited and hopeful for all the great things that will continue to come from Wimberley ISD.
Well said. Thank you, Gina.
Thank y'all.
All right, I'm going to report on a couple other things quickly here. We've got a couple level 3 grievances that are pending. We're working, originally we were postponing those grievances until we were able to meet in person, and we were doing that by agreement. We're still discussing options between our attorneys, as our attorney and the grievance attorneys, to decide the best approach. Just kind of be on the lookout in the event that we're able to schedule these. We'd be looking for dates to do it via Zoom, or just other options that might be available as this COVID-19 situation continues to develop. And, at a certain point, these matters might need to be heard. So we're going to be talking about that more as we move forward. What else is on there for President's report? I don't have it in front of me.
Hey, Joe, would you mind if I just expounded on that just a little, in that I do have another meeting with attorneys, and what they had specifically asked for is, are there some dates in the month of May or early June? And I was thinking if we threw some dates at y'all, if y'all could just respond like we normally do in text, just be looking for those. And then if you already know, if you could text me after the meeting that you cannot meet on certain dates, then that would help.
Joe, you have the TASB advocacy agenda resolution on your agenda item there.
Oh, okay. We'll go ahead and table that. Is that all right, Dottie? Is Dottie out there somewhere?
Somewhere, yes. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do it.
Yeah, we don't even have to do it. It just comes in as part of the annual reporting.
Okay, then I'm gonna table it. All right. What else do we have left?
Closed session, and or not.
Yeah.
So we're not, we didn't plan on breaking into executive session unless there was a need to do so. I know everybody's had an opportunity to ask questions regarding the matters that are on our executive session agenda. Do we have any motions?
Yes. Are we good to move forward with everybody? Is there anything that was still left out there that needed to be discussed?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Let's go ahead and make a motion. We got some
Awesome. Then I would make a motion that we offer contracts to Ruben Martinez, Janie Ortiz, and we accept the resignation of Faith Hightower.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Start over on the right side of my screen this time. Will Conley.
Yes.
Lori Olson.
Yes.
Neil Fulkerson.
Yes.
Rob Campbell.
Yes, sir.
Tracy Maxwell.
Yes.
Ken Strange.
Yes.
And Joe Malone, yes. That's unanimous. Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, dang it. I want to say my watch has ended.
Go for it.
We haven't ended.
My watch has ended. There we go.
Good to see all of you guys, even remotely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yo.
All right,
I guess
guys.
I'll be calling you.
Stay safe out there.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Take care.